Hey FD12, we're going to do a little bonus video this week, and I want to just go over a couple other flat techniques. And the flats I got were fairly good, so you're all on the right track. Just, always be careful about your construction. Now let's consider that we're doing a knit garment. Now it's going to be a little knit t-shirt, a v-neck, and I want to go over some shading. One shading technique that is necessary and one shading technique that is just kind of fun and will help make your flats pop, and if you want to add it you can. If not, don't worry about it. Now as I mentioned in our flat construction videos on knowing what what garment details to put on what garments, we mentioned that most all knit garments are trimmed, so hem, neckline, sleeve cuffs, or armholes, depending on whether or not it has sleeves, will be trimmed with ribbing. Now this could be knit in or it could be seamed in. And I want to show you how to draw that in a flat. So this is my t-shirt, and I have a sewn on rib trim. Now I know it's sewn on because I have this seam here. Now if it was simply knit in, I would not put this in there. So most always our neckline is going to be sewn in because of the peculiar shape, but a lot of times our hem ribbing is not. It's just knit in. So what they do is when they make the piece of fabric, they'll knit it an inch or however long with a rib style knit, and then they'll just go onto the plain style knit. Similar to the cuff too, so you can either see that sewn in or not. So I want to show you just how to do that. It's fairly easy. So let's assume, even if I am going to have a sewn in or stitched on, I want to give myself a little bit of a boundary on where to put my little rib stitches. So I have that there, and all I'm really going to do is go with my little line tool, and I'm going to zoom in super close. Now don't be afraid of your zoom tool. It can make otherwise very difficult things to draw quite easy. And I'm going to go ahead and just go like so. So now I'm going to make it a little bit lighter gray, and actually I might go around and change the gray. It looks a little bit dark on the other ones. And there's one. I'm going to make another one, and we're just going to click and drag, click and drag. Now I'm not using the draft tool, I'm just using the line segment tool because it's a little faster. But once I have at least two, I can start to just copy paste and build it up, because doing every single one of those little lines is quite a long time. But if we go like this and just start building, I'll be done in no time. Angle that a little bit better. Come on now, angle better. There you go. And I've got one more of these and we'll be done. So that would be my rib. And this is again for knits, as they should be finished in rib. Now you see that's a little messy there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use my black arrow and select everything in here. Now I'm going to go ahead and I want to isolate just the little lines that compromise my ribbing. So I'm going to hold Shift and deselect all the things that are not those little ribbings. So there we go, that's done. And while they're all selected, I'm going to right click, go to Arrange, and send them to the back. Now I could have just done this on another layer too if I wanted to make sure that those nice black lines are coming above there. Now I like that lighter color a little bit better, so let's do the same thing here and make my other lines a little bit lighter. I'm going to use the eyedropper tool to make sure they're the same gray as this. Okie dokie. So a little bit better, a little bit nice and lighter. And let's do these guys down here too. Now depending on the width of your rib, how chunky, you can adjust the stroke of the line. So say I wanted a finer rib, less chunky. So again, I'm just going to select all of the little ribbing lines. Oops, except for that one. I'll do that one. There we go. Alright, now I have all the little ribbing lines, and I can go to Properties, Stroke. Let's see what a slightly finer stroke will look like. Well, that might look a little bit better, I think. And that all depends on what you want to do with your ribbing, how it's ribbed, the gauge of your yarn, the pattern of your ribbing, so on and so forth. Okay, anyway, very specific example, but let's finish this flat. Okay, so I pretty much have a finished flat right now, but I want to do one thing. So we talked about having to shade the inside of the garment. So the way this garment is it's a V-neck t-shirt. So this is the front, but I can see the back. The back does not have a V-neck, it just has your standard crew neck. So what happens is this comes down deeper than the back neck, and I can see the insides. However, this is a little bit confusing because how do I know that this is the back, the sort of inside of the garment that I can see from the front, and not a sort of insetted fabric for the front? So you'd have this plus an inset fabric and then an actual crew neck. You might say, well, this is more standard, but again, we want to make things really super clear. So what we have to do is whenever we have an inside of the garment we want to shade, just to let us know this is the inside, it's not part of the front, it's part of the back, you can just see through that deep neckline, so on and so forth. And most of you got this pretty well, but a little clunky on the actual technique, so we're going to go over it now. So how do I shade this so nice and properly? Well, there's a couple of ways you can do it. What I actually kind of sometimes like to do is if I know I'm going to print out my flats, I'll simply use a shadow marker afterwards. It's kind of the fastest, easiest way to do it. It's even easier to do it than in Illustrator. So if you are going to present them physically on a piece of paper and print them out, you can just print them out and add the shadow with a gray marker afterwards. I like to do that. However, more and more, we no longer are displaying on paper and we're sending these out digitally and they stay digital. And we may not ever have the opportunity to do that. So it's important to know how to do it in in Illustrator as well. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a new layer. Okay, I'm going to lock this layer for now. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to zoom in on the area that I want to be in shadow. So this neckline right here. And I'm going to grab my pen tool. And I'm just going to go ahead and trace the area that I want in shadow. So it's very easy. And I'm going to make sure that the whole area is traced from beginning to end because I want to make a complete closed shape. So I'm going to end where I begin. Okay? Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to come over here and I'm going to make sure that both the fill is shaded with a gray. Doesn't matter what gray you use. It's nice to be consistent though, so if you use one color gray for a shadow on a flat and you're doing a number of flats, try to use the same. Remember, you can always replicate colors using your eyedropper tool. And a lot of times I like to leave the stroke as a nil fill. It lets it sit inside the shape a little bit easier without bleeding over. Now what I'm going to do, since it looks a little bit clunky, is I'm going to make sure that shape itself is selected. I'm going to go to Properties, and I'm going to go down here to Opacity. Now remember I had all those nice back details, and you might have a back seam or a closure, or here I have the back collar ribbing, and we want to see it. And again, this will make it blend in a little bit better and allow any details to be seen. So here we are. There is my shadow. So let me click off and show it what it looks like. And now I have a nice inside shaded. Now if I wanted even cleaner than this, I could actually, because I did my flat with a nil fill, I can grab this whole thing and drop it below my original layer, and you'll see there that the lines are a little bit cleaner, a little bit clearer, but I am still getting everything I need to. And actually, even if I do this, I don't have to, well, actually I should. I don't have to lower the opacity, actually. So either way you want to do it, it's up to you. So this is nice and complete. It's perfectly fine. It's knit, remember, so I don't need a closure. I don't need darts or seams because that knit fabric stretches around my body. The only thing I needed was that rib trim, which I have on all the areas that it's needed. And I have the inside of the garment shaded, so I know looking at this that this is the back, it's not part of the front, so on and so forth. So there's one other shading technique that I want to show you that, again, is just for pop. It's not necessary. But in the world of flats, especially because most of all of the fashion world does them on Illustrator, it's a little bit difficult to sort of make your flats stand out, let's say, because they kind of tend to all sort of look the same. It's sort of the quote-unquote industry standard. But here's a little technique that we can make our flats maybe stand out a little bit better, or sort of pop from the page, or really make it look like we kind of know what we're doing. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to work on a new layer. If you didn't see I did that, I worked on a new layer. I'm locking all my other layers. And I'm going to grab my fill and make it white. Now you might want to start with a nil fill, because as you move, the shape will start to turn white and it might block certain areas that you want to see. So actually, let's do that. Let's start with a nil fill, and I'll keep this gray just to see what I'm doing so I'm not completely invisible. And what I'm going to do is really what I'm after is I want to just trace the basic shape of my garment so the silhouette, and I'm just going to go around. Now if you have areas like a flare or a flounce where the line got kind of complicated and you don't feel like doing it again, you can always use the cut tool to isolate that certain area and then copy and paste it and work from there so you don't have to do it again. But this is a very simple shape, so I'm just going to go ahead and trace it. And there we go. So I have the silhouette of my garment traced. Let's see, I'm going to zoom in. It looks like I might have be a little clunky on that neckline, so I'm going to go ahead and fix it. Okay, now that's sitting a little bit better. Okay, so I'm going to now use my black arrow because I want to work with this whole thing. It might be a lot. That's probably okay. I'll fix it later if it's a problem. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to fill it with white. And I'm going to nil fill my stroke here. Okay, so I basically have a white background to this, and you can see that if I pop layer 5 over my shirt, it's just basically a white shape that is the same shape as my flat. But I do want to keep it underneath my flat, so I'm going to keep it underneath the two aspects of my flat here. So remember, this is the shadow, this is the main flat, and this is just the white shape. Okay? So we're going to keep working there. So I'm going to take that white shape and I'm going to copy and paste it. So I copied and pasted it. Now this one I'm going to make gray. Just a nice light gray. Like so. Now I want to place this one So if I'm looking here, the white shape is directly on top of the figure, or directly underneath, I guess would be better to say. Now I want to play the gray shape to the side and slightly down. Okay, just a little bit like that. Now I also want it to sit underneath my white shape. So if it's not, go ahead and right click on the gray shape, go to arrange and send it to the back. And this way we can arrange where the objects sit and how they layer on top of each other within a layer. Now one last thing I want to do while this is selected, so make sure your gray shape and only your gray shape is selected, go to Effect and go to Blur. Now you're going to blur it and it's going to make it look sort of soft and shadowy. I like to use the Gaussian blur, but you can mess around with all the other different ones. Not too much or else it gets too fuzzy, but let's try a nice, I don't know, let's try 10 pixels to start with. If we need to do more, we can do more. If we want to do less, we can always undo it. I'm going to say OK. And it looks like we might want to do more. So I'm going to undo it, Control Z, and I'm just going to do it again. And again, this depends really on the size of your flat. So let's bump that up to about 30. I think will be good for us. Perfect. So there it is. And again, this is a way to sort of create a little bit of a drop shadow. You can see in here, I might need to clean up this shape a little bit in here, but no matter. Maybe I can just scoot it in a bit. And it gives a sort of nice three-dimensional aspect to your flat. It literally, you know, makes them pop off the page a little bit. It's really easy to do and really quick. Again, it's not necessary. So let's say you already have the job and you got 100 garments to flat today. Don't do the little drop. But if you're looking for, you know, something to put in your portfolio and, you know, little kind of tips and tricks to make what's in your portfolio really pop out and look kind of nice and give it just a little bit more, a little bit extra, this can be a nice thing to do to your flats. So again, it's not necessary in any way, but it's just kind of nice. It makes it pop. Again, if you are going to be putting these in your portfolio, you're at that sort of stage where you kind of want to, you know, put in all the bells and whistles, pull out all the stops, and really show that you're really great at Illustrator. You can make these really beautiful flats and so on and so forth. But again, if I had, you know, simply 100 garments to flat today because I had to spec them all, I would not be doing the little drop shadows. That's, you know, something that comes a little bit later on in your career when you do have the privilege of doing that. But again, just wanted to show you a little extra tip and trick, so hopefully it was helpful, and especially making the shadows on the inside, which is necessary. And if you want me to show you any other sort of garment details or aspects of flats, just email me and I can make a video, little bonus videos just like these. So feel free to ask if there's anything you're having trouble with, and I'll try to go ahead and help you out. And specifically, you know, you have the collection coming up next week, so if there's a specific garment that you're not sure about the construction or anything like that, just shoot me an email and I'll try to get back to you as soon as possible with, you know, sort of help on how to figure out what should be the proper construction for that garment. Okay, guys.